Okay, so I'm going to show you this skill first, and then I'm going to talk just because it's really hard for me to talk while I do the skill. So that's the skill. Overall, I think that going from not being able to do this skill at all to being able to just hold it even just for a second or two, I would give myself an 8 for development, just because I went from not being able to do it at all to, I was able to just do it for just a couple seconds. But I would not give myself a 10 just because my goal at the beginning of this year was to be able to go up into the pose without any help. I had to still use the bed frame for help and to be able to hold it, and I still am not able to hold it for very long. So I think that an 8 is more appropriate. My selected theoretical framework I chose is the Bernstein model. I chose this model because it has to do with the degrees of freedom, meaning the movement has like multiple parts that you put together and it's complex. So the learner can break it down or like freeze some movements at first to learn it slowly. For example, I had my arms, my back, and my legs. It had to do with the sagittal plane, so a lot of flexion and extension. And then with the knees, it has a very specific part of extension and flexion called a hinge. So I went to stage 1, so identifying and freezing the different parts, in which I started off learning just like the handstand and then just the back bend separately, which is like freezing different parts. So like the handstand, but I froze the back bend part of it. I then entered stage 2, in which I slowly unfroze them, so I would add more extension to my back farther away from my support. Or I also would slowly started going to do an elbow stand at first and doing the back bend, and then went into the handstand. So that was stage 2, and then I still feel like I have not fully gotten to stage 3, which requires maximizing effectiveness and efficiency and being able to match the environment. I'm still not 100% effective because I'm not able to fully hold the pose for a long amount of time or do it without help. And efficiency, I feel like I'm not doing this the best way that I could be, just because I've been teaching myself how to do it. So efficiency, not the greatest. And as far as like being able to do the skill where like to match the environment, I'm still not able to do that either because I still need the support from the bed or from a wall. I can't just go up into the pose just wherever yet. Moving on to constraints, I had 4 of them that are like the big main constraints. So for individual strengths, one of them is structural. This is because I cannot get up into the pose or hold it very long, simply because I don't possess the muscle mass or like the strength in my arms, back, and core to do so because I kept getting sick. I didn't have a lot of time to practice those things, and I still am not fully up to my before strength. I have no strength right now. So that was definitely a structural constraint that I had. And then another individual functional constraint that I had met just within the last couple weeks. It hasn't been the whole time, but definitely within the last couple weeks. I have lost like all motivation to do anything. I am just currently like not motivated to do anything at all except sleep. So I got very lazy with practice, and I would cut corners. I wouldn't practice for the full time, or I wouldn't do all the stretches I knew I needed to do, or I would just go back to stage 1, in which I would just have, I would just do the back bend and then just do the handstand instead of trying hard to put it together. So a very big lack of motivation has definitely been one of the biggest constraints that I've had in the last couple weeks since the last time I turned the project in. And then going on to an environmental constraint that I had, I decided that like a big constraint that I've had is definitely a social one. Having to learn this skill on my own without easy access to a mentor who knows the pose and could critique it correctly, due to like just all the COVID stuff, has been really hard. I've been trying to watch videos and I've been trying to like look at pictures and do it all on my own, but it's very hard when nobody else is around to like critique you and be like, hey, like this is how you could maybe do this a little better. And then for my last constraint, would be a task constraint. It actually has to do with equipment. So currently I don't have my yoga mat. I forgot it back in home in Colorado over Christmas break. So because of this, I'm actually not fully comfortable trying to do the pose yet without the help of a wall because I don't have a mat to catch my fall. I'm just kind of very scared of like falling down and hurting myself. And because of that, I've been less motivated to try to do the skill without help. So yeah, those are the 4 main constraints that I have met with this project and within the last couple weeks. Next, actually, in order to teach this skill, I would start off with having the learner honestly work on their arms and back and core first before anything. Just definitely like doing like just general strength training for the back, the arms, and the core was a big help in me being able to do this. I would also include the importance of all the different stretches that I did, just because that like having that flexibility and that fluidness is really important for this pose, because obviously if you can't flex your back or extend your back to the point where it needs to be, then you could greatly hurt yourself. So I would definitely start off with strengthening and flexibility stuff. I would then also do what I did, which was to break the pose into 2 parts. You have the handstand, which is separate, and then you have the back bend, which is separate. I would have them work on those 2 parts until they were comfortable with them, especially the handstand. A big part of me practicing my handstand was just being able to hold it without like seeing the black dots and like passing out, because obviously like you're upside down, like the blood will rush to your head, so you need to get better at that. Like with more practice, your body gets more used to being upside down, and that's really important with this pose because you're upside down and then you add the back extension. It just causes your body to like have that blood rushing because it's not sure how to respond to the pose that you've put it in. And then also I would have the learner start, like once they learned those 2 parts, before they put it completely together, I would have them start with an elbow stand versus the actual handstand, which an elbow stand is basically you're down on your elbows and you go into it, because this is a lot easier to hold, and it also promotes a lot more confidence in one's ability to hold the pose, so that then they can go up and do it as a handstand. I definitely, when I decided to start doing the elbow stand first instead of going straight into the handstand, I just felt a lot more confident in myself. I felt a lot more safe. And so I would definitely have them start off with that until they were comfortable and could hold the pose without help in that, and then have them go into the handstands. Then finally, my expectations for the future is that I continue to try this pose and continue working on it through the summer until I can hold the pose without help, and like until I can go up into the pose without help, and that I'm able to hold it for longer than a few seconds. I'm definitely going to start trying to do it without the support, starting with just the elbow stand first, and slowly just like doing it farther and farther away from the support until I'm used to just doing it on my own without the support, and then do the same thing once I'm comfortable with the elbow stand, doing that same process with the handstand. I definitely plan on keeping it as a part of my morning yoga routine. And hopefully working on my core will also help a lot more. My core is definitely not as strong as I want it to be for this pose, so that's going to be an important part in the next couple weeks while I work on this pose, is just building up my core in order to just hold the pose for longer. So that is it. I'll show you the pose one more time, and then yeah. So once again, I can go up like this, in here, and I can get it here. So I hope you enjoyed, and I had a lot of fun with this, and thanks for encouraging us to do these kinds of projects. It was super fun. Thank you.